Where am I supposed to tell these people to go?
We can't save everybody. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get my family out alive.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. You know, you and I have been able to have a conversation for the years with like Twilight Saga and many Comic-Cons, which has been really fun. But I'm most excited because not only do you star in On Fire, but you also direct. So kind of talk to me about how this project came to be.
Originally, I got the script, and Nick Lyon is the director of the film and writer with Ron Pierman. And I sat down with Nick and we talked about the film, and I signed on to be the lead actor, to play the character of Dave Laughlin. And it was a movie that was about an issue that is very prevalent in the news. Even back then when I read it, it was something that I thought this could be something interesting that gives you an inside look at what this harrowing experience could look like for you and your family. A bit of a cautionary tale there. And then working with Nick, I think, he really respected me as a filmmaker. I respected him as a filmmaker. And, we worked together as we were filming to, add layers of themes and takeaways and really focus in on getting the scenes elevated with the dialogue. And then he ended up getting COVID, which was really, upsetting because it's like your captain of the ship is gone. But I think because he believed in me and understood that I really understood his vision and what he was trying to do, he kind of passed the baton on to me and said, hey, can you finish the film? And I did. And then we just took that collaborative spirit into the editing room and carved out the movie that you see. And the co-directing credit became more of a celebration of us, of our collaboration together.
I love that. It's just like anything in life, you're able to kind of find the silver lining within any situation. And obviously it's universally relatable, especially since, we're kind of still holding our arms around Maui right now. But for Californians, especially, like I lived through the Cedar Fire in 2003. I lived through the 2007 wildfire firestorms that we had. So kind of it brings up all sorts of emotions for me watching it, having been through it, not nearly as intense as those characters. But for you, what were some of the emotions you were feeling while filming?
I mean, all of it. It was a very emotionally demanding part. I think one of the challenges also is for us as actors, and I have to give a lot of credit to Fiona Dourif and Asher Angel and Lance Henriksen too, is we didn't use any practical fire when we were filming. So all of it is kind of when that happens, we have to use your imagination a lot. It's a lot of using your imagination and focus, and so you can't. When you're doing those kinds of scenes where you're pretending something's there that it's not, it requires 110% commitment. So to have other actors that you could look into their eyes and that they're feeling it as much as you're feeling what you guys are creating in your imagination, it helps, so we were there for each other. But yeah, it wasn't like we were in a green screen studio, but when you're looking up into the trees and you're pretending that you're seeing embers flying, or you're running from a house that's not on fire, but you have to imagine that it is, and imagine that the fire, you got to feel that fire in your imagination on the back of your necks. That's where the acting comes in to play. So that was a fun challenge to work on. And so you're just feeling all the things that these characters are going through, the frustration, the anger that this is happening. One of the things when the movie starts out, my character's saddled with stress. You meet him and he's this dad that's relatable. He's got a baby on the way, a son going off to college. He's trying to figure out how to pay for that. He's got a new business that, might or might not make it. He's got a dad who's sick. He's paying the bills for, and all of those mountainous stresses and pressures, become anthills in comparison to when he's faced with trying to survive the night with his family. And so watching this family go through this journey and grow together and lean on each other, and also to lean on a higher power, to be like, hey, I believe we're going to get through this. This is bigger than us, and you have to have that belief. It was also an important takeaway. So within this banner of this family survival drama that we've tried to create a lot of takeaways that people could have, and one of those themes being family and the family bond, and knowing that you can get through anything because you have each other. That was important to me to kind of make sure that message came across.
I love that, because you see them have to work together as a family. You see the fear in his eyes when he's told he cannot maybe be reunited with them without giving anything away. I mean, my husband and I were definitely shouting back at the screen as to what we would have done.
I love that.
So I think that's great. It's a thriller in every sense of the word, in every sense of the way, in that aspect. But then I did like digging deeper and understanding, like, what does survival look like? Do I have it within me to dig deeper? Do I trust my son enough to do something, or do I still want the control to kind of hand do it all? And that's where that higher power comes in. So I appreciated seeing that family. What did that look like amongst the three of you as actors in that unit?
Yeah, I feel like we were like that family unit on screen. We were kind of there for each other, especially when like I talked about, you're playing these scenes that there's stuff that's not there. And so if you and I were imagining that because something is there, if you're not 100% committed, that's going to bring me out of it, right? So like we have to be there for each other. And so through the journey of this movie as actors, we were there for each other. And then even at the point where our director got sick and ended up coming to me and asking me to take over because he had COVID and we couldn't, we were too far out at sea to go back to port. So he trusted me enough to say, okay, we've been working collaboratively together. I know you know what I'm looking for. You've directed before it. I trust you can do it. And then passing that baton on to me, and then becoming like somewhat the leader of like the family on the bigger aspect, kind of was life imitating art, and this chaotic moment where you're running from fires and running and then you're running a set. So there's a lot of parallels happening for me and my character, and I just kind of tried to use that stress and added pressure into the role. But yeah, for me, that essentially this movie, it's meant to be a suspenseful ride. It's based on true events. It's an inspirational story, but also a cautionary tale. But the core of it to me, it was always like the family and watching this family grow together. Because in these type of movies, you have this, usually the patriarch is the hero, and then everybody's looking at the dad to save them. And the poster's the dad hanging off a building going, follow me to the, and I'll save everybody. And in this movie, the dad, he's just a dad trying to figure it out. Just, he doesn't have all the answers, and he leans on his family, and his family leans on him. And sometimes, when the family can't go on, they look to him, and he musters the courage in them to keep moving forward. And then sometimes they muster the courage in him to keep moving forward. So each one of those characters has a heroic moments. I think the most heroic in the movie is Fiona Durr's character. She's 8 months pregnant, carrying around a 30 pounds and running through the woods and fire and smoke, and that takes strength. So and then you have my son who's looking at his parents going, are you guys going to get me out of this, and are we going to survive this night? And then he ends up having the heroic moment that helps us. So there's a beautiful family bond in this journey that you get to witness, and I think that is inspirational.
Absolutely. And, my father-in-law was a firefighter in New Jersey, in Newark. And, we celebrate our first responders because they are so amazing. But to see not only some of the firefighter response, but then also the 911 dispatch, to see what they go through. Are they really being helpful? What does one family making a difference in one family look like? So talk to me a little bit about including a couple other perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we had a lot of different takeaways throughout the film and under the umbrella of this suspense film. But one of them at the end was to celebrate firefighters, to celebrate, their courage and what they do and how they make a difference. But also the 911 operators and first responders who don't often get a lot of credit because they're not the ones running into the building and putting their lives on the line in that way. But when you watch this film, you realize how courageous and heroic they are. They're the lifeline on the other end of that phone, and that person's relying on them. And sometimes they don't have all the answers, and sometimes they're doing the best they can. And then sometimes they don't know what happened to the person on the other line. They have another incoming call coming in. In this movie, the 911 operator is just a young woman who she's been working for a couple of weeks there in a very sleepy town. That the biggest thing that happens is a cat gets caught in a tree, and then she's, all of a sudden becomes the head of this ground zero of this harrowing evening where she's bombarded with all these calls, and just watching her trying to manage those calls, to manage her emotions, to try to figure out, how to best help all these people. That shows the amount of stress and pressures that those first responders are under, and shows their heroism and courage. And then we also try to leave off with a little bit of hope and regrowth and rebirth at the end of the film, as well as hopefully having a moment of pause at the end of the film where you think, wow, I wouldn't want that to happen to me or my family or anybody that I know. So how can we come together as a community and get and figure out how to curb these fires that keep on happening, And so hopefully the film, wouldn't that be nice if we were able to come together to solve this issue? I know we can. The one thing about humanity is when we put our minds to something and we all come together, we can do it,
Absolutely. And the fact that it made me turn to my husband and say, we need to go buy a truck. That was a lifesaver for you guys there at the beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I can't wait for audiences to kind of get to go on this thrill ride, but then also get to examine, aspects of their life and make sure they mark their calendars for September 29th.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sitting with me, and it was good to see you.
Yeah, great seeing you too.